The Long Journey, from Stone Age foragers to Neolithic farmers. Human prehistory, spanning millions of years before written records, is largely defined by our relationship with technology, environment, and subsistence strategies. This vast expanse is traditionally divided into three major periods based on stone tool technology and fundamental ways of life: the Paleolithic, Old Stone Age; the Mesolithic, Middle Stone Age; and the Neolithic, New Stone Age. Together, these epochs witnessed the transformation of hominins from nomadic hunter-gatherers dependent on wild resources to settled communities practicing agriculture and animal husbandry, laying the foundations for all subsequent civilizations. 1. The Paleolithic, dawn of humanity and the age of hunter-gatherers, circa 3.3 million years ago, circa 11,700 years ago. The Paleolithic encompasses the overwhelming majority of human history, stretching from the first known stone tool manufacture in East Africa, like those at Lomekwi III, to the end of the last Ice Age, Pleistocene epoch. This immense period witnessed profound evolutionary changes, from early hominins like Australopithecus and Homo habilis to the emergence and global dispersal of anatomically modern humans, Homo sapiens. Lower Paleolithic, circa 3.3 million years ago, circa 300,000 years ago. Technology, characterized by simple, core-based tools. The Oldowan industry, associated with Homo habilis, featured choppers, scrapers, and flakes made by striking one stone, hammerstone, against another, core. The later Acheulean industry, associated with Homo erectus, introduced more sophisticated symmetrical hand axes and cleavers requiring greater planning and skill, bifacial flaking. These were the first truly multi-purpose tools. Subsistence, primarily scavenging and opportunistic hunting of small game, supplemented heavily by gathering plant foods, fruits, nuts, and insects. Evidence suggests increasing reliance on meat over time. Control of fire. Evidence from sites like Wonderwork Cave, circa 1 million years ago, was a revolutionary development, providing warmth, protection, light, and enabling cooking, improving nutrition and food safety. Social life and culture. Small, mobile bands of 20 to 50 individuals, likely based on kinship. Evidence for social cooperation in hunting, scavenging, and rudimentary sharing. Minimal evidence for symbolic behavior, though some potential early engravings exist. Homo erectus was the first hominin to migrate out of Africa, reaching Asia and Europe. Environment, dominated by the fluctuating climates of the Pleistocene Ice Age, with alternating glacial, cold, dry, low sea levels, and interglacial, warmer, wetter, higher sea levels, periods shaping available resources and migration routes. Middle Paleolithic, circa 300,000, c. 40,000 years ago. Technology, marked by the Levallois technique, a prepared core method allowing greater control over the size and shape of flakes. Flakes became the primary focus, retouched into a wider variety of specialized tools: scrapers, for hides, wood, points, hafted onto spears for thrusting or possibly throwing, and denticulates, notched edges. Evidence of hafting, attaching stone points to wooden shafts, appears, creating composite tools. Bone tools become more common but are still relatively simple. Subsistence, more sophisticated hunting strategies, targeting larger game: deer, bison, mammoth, woolly rhinoceros. Scavenging remained important. Gathering continued to provide a significant portion of the diet. Evidence for more efficient butchery and resource processing. Social life and culture, associated primarily with Neanderthals, Homo neanderthalensis in Europe and Western Asia, and early Homo sapiens in Africa and the Near East. Larger social networks suggested by raw material transport over longer distances, up to hundreds of kilometers. Clear evidence of intentional burial of the dead, e.g., Shanidar Cave, La Chapelle aux Saints, sometimes with grave goods, tools, flowers, ochre, implying ritualistic behavior and concepts of an afterlife. Use of ochre, red pigment, for symbolic purposes, body decoration, rituals, becomes widespread. Possible evidence of simple personal adornment. Environment. Continued severe glacial-interglacial oscillations. Neanderthals were superbly adapted to the harsh, cold environments of Ice Age Europe. Upper Paleolithic circa 40,000, sumar 11,700 years ago. Technology, an explosion of technological innovation and regional diversification. Blade technology dominated. Long, thin flakes struck from carefully prepared prismatic cores, highly efficient in terms of raw material use. Blades were modified into an unprecedented array of specialized tools: end scrapers, hide working, burins, engraving, bone, antler, backed blades, points, projectile weapons, awls, piercing. Bone, antler, and ivory working reached new heights, producing needles, enabling tailored clothing, harpoons, spear throwers, atlatls, increasing range and force, fish hooks, and intricate ornaments. Microliths, tiny stone blades, geometrics, began appearing towards the end, foreshadowing the Mesolithic. Subsistence, highly skilled and specialized hunting of large herd animals, reindeer, horses, bison, using sophisticated projectile weapons, javelins, atlatl darts, bows possibly appear very late. Intensified exploitation of aquatic resources, fish, shellfish, marine mammals, and small game. Gathering remained vital. Broad-spectrum exploitation of the environment. Social life and culture, associated with the global expansion of anatomically modern humans, Homo sapiens. Neanderthals and other archaic humans disappear. Larger population densities and more complex social structures emerge, evidenced by larger, sometimes semi-permanent seasonal camps. Cave art flourishes, reaching stunning levels of sophistication, e.g., Lascaux, Chauvet, Altamira, depicting animals, abstract symbols, and rare human figures, likely linked to shamanism, hunting magic, and mythology. Portable art is abundant. Carved figurines, notably the Venus statuettes, possibly fertility symbols, intricately decorated tools, beads, pendants. Elaborate burials with rich grave goods become more common. Evidence for long-distance trade networks exchanging exotic materials like shells and flint. Ritual and symbolic life becomes richly complex. Environment. The last glacial maximum, LGM, peaked around 26,000 to 19,000 years ago, with extreme cold and vast ice sheets. The period ends with the dramatic warming marking the end of the Pleistocene and the start of the Holocene epoch. The Mesolithic. Adapting to a warming world, circa 11,700, c. 8,000 to 6,000 years ago, varying significantly by region. The Mesolithic is the transitional period between the end of the Ice Age, Pleistocene, and the beginning of agriculture, Neolithic. Its timing and character vary considerably depending on geography. It began earliest in Southwest Asia and latest in Northern Europe. The defining factor was the profound climate change of the Holocene. Glaciers retreated, sea levels rose dramatically, submerging vast coastal plains like Doggerland. Forests expanded, deciduous in temperate zones, and animal populations shifted. Megafauna like mammoths largely disappeared, replaced by forest-adapted species like deer and boar. Technology. The hallmark is the proliferation of microlithic technology. Tiny, geometrically shaped flakes of flint or chert, triangles, crescents, trapezoids, were mass-produced and inset into wooden or bone shafts to create composite tools, primarily projectile points and barbs for arrows and spears. This allowed for lighter, more efficient weapons, crucial for hunting smaller, faster game in dense forests. Continued use and refinement of bone, antler tools, fish hooks, harpoons, needles, adzes, mattocks for woodworking and soil digging. Groundstone tools, axes, adzes, became more common for forest clearance and woodworking. Boats, dugout canoes, skin-covered frames became increasingly important for exploiting aquatic resources and transport. The domestication of the dog, from wolves, likely occurred late in the Paleolithic or early Mesolithic, becoming a vital partner in hunting and guarding. Subsistence and settlement intensified broad-spectrum foraging. Groups adapted flexibly to the new forest and coastal environments. Hunting focused on smaller game, red deer, roe deer, wild boar, birds. Fishing, using nets, traps, weirs, hooks, harpoons, and shellfish gathering became extremely important, especially near coasts, rivers, and lakes. Gathering nuts, hazelnuts were a staple in Europe. Seeds, fruits, roots, and other plant foods was crucial. This period saw a significant diversification and intensification in resource exploitation. Settlement patterns. Increased sedentism, less mobility, emerged in resource-rich areas like coastlines, major river valleys, and lake shores. Groups often returned seasonally to the same locations, building more substantial structures, post-built huts, sometimes semi-subterranean. Evidence for storage pits indicates planning and surplus accumulation. Population densities generally increased compared to the Upper Paleolithic. Social life and culture. While still fundamentally hunter-gatherer-fisher societies, increased sedentism and population density likely fostered more complex social organization within and between groups. Evidence suggests territories became more defined. Artistic expression continued but shifted from monumental cave art to smaller-scale forms. Painted pebbles, engraved bone or antler, personal adornment, beads, pendants. Abstract designs often dominated. Ritual practices are evident in intentional burials, sometimes in cemeteries, often with grave goods including tools, ornaments, and ochre. Some sites show complex funerary practices, evidence for potential ancestor veneration or territorial markers. Extensive trade networks continued, evidenced by materials moving far from their sources. Third, the Neolithic Revolution, the birth of agriculture and settled life, circa 12,000 c. 4,500 years ago, beginning earliest in the Near East. The Neolithic represents one of the most profound transformations in human history. The shift from food procurement, hunting-gathering, to food production, agriculture, and animal herding. This Neolithic Revolution, or agricultural revolution, occurred independently in several key regions around the world: Fertile Crescent, China, Mesoamerica, Andes, New Guinea, but began earliest in the Near East: Levant, Anatolia, Zagros Mountains. The core innovations: plant domestication, deliberate cultivation and selective breeding of wild grasses, leading to wheat, barley, rice, millet, maize, and pulses, peas, lentils, beans. This involved saving and sowing seeds from preferred plants, gradually altering their genetics, larger seeds, non-shattering stalks. Animal domestication. taming and selective breeding of wild animals for food, meat, milk, materials, wool, hides, bone, labor, traction, carrying, and dung, fuel, fertilizer. Key species included sheep, goats, cattle, and pigs, initially in Southwest Asia, followed by others elsewhere, e.g., water buffalo, llama, turkey. Ground and polished stone tools. While flint knapping continued, polished stone axes and adzes became essential for clearing forests for fields and for woodworking. Grinding stones, querns, and mortars were vital for processing grain. Pottery technology emerged, though timing varies, revolutionizing storage, cooking, and transport of food and liquids. Subsistence and settlement, agriculture and pastoralism. Food production became the primary subsistence strategy, though hunting, fishing, and gathering often remained important supplements. This allowed for predictable, storable food surpluses. Permanent villages. The ability to produce food near water sources led to the establishment of permanent, year-round settlements. Houses became more substantial. Mud, brick, stone, timber frame wattle, and daub. Population densities increased significantly. Population growth and surplus. Reliable food production fueled substantial population growth. Surplus food freed some individuals from direct food procurement, enabling craft specialization, potters, weavers, toolmakers, traders, and social stratification. Technology and material culture. Pottery, ubiquitous for storage, cooking, serving. Styles became regionally distinct and often highly decorated, serving both utilitarian and social ritual purposes. Textiles, spinning, spindle whorls, and weaving, loom weights, of plant fibers, flax, cotton, and wool became widespread, producing clothing, sacks, and sails. Advanced groundstone, polished stone axes, adzes, chisels, mace heads, stone vessels. Obsidian trade networks expanded. Construction, monumental architecture appeared, reflecting communal effort and emerging social complexity. Megaliths, large stone structures, tombs like dolmens and passage graves, alignments like Karnak, circles like Stonehenge, though some peak later. Large communal buildings, i.e., Jericho's tower and wall, Çatalhöyük's dense settlement, and ritual centers, e.g., Göbekli Tepe, remarkably early, predating widespread domestication in the region. Social life and culture. Increased social complexity. Larger permanent populations living together required new forms of social organization beyond kinship bands. Evidence for emerging social ranking. Elites, based on control of surplus, trade, or ritual, craft specialization, and organized labor for large projects. Concepts of property and land ownership likely intensified. Religion and ritual. Belief systems became more complex, likely tied to agricultural cycles, fertility, seasons, ancestors. Ritual spaces, shrines within houses, special buildings, megalithic monuments are common. Figurines, often female, mother-goddess types, and symbolic motifs proliferate. Ancestor veneration may have been significant. Health impacts. The shift to agriculture had mixed health consequences. While providing a more stable calorie base, diets often became less diverse and nutritionally poorer, reliant on starchy grains. Increased population density and proximity to domesticated animals led to the spread of infectious diseases, zoonoses, and dental problems. Skeletal evidence often shows declining health compared to Mesolithic hunter-gatherers. Environmental impact. Deliberate landscape modification through forest clearance, slash and burn, field systems, and irrigation began altering ecosystems on a larger scale. Selective breeding changed plant and animal species fundamentally. The legacy of the Stone Ages. The transition from Paleolithic through Mesolithic to Neolithic represents the core journey of human development. The Paleolithic forged our fundamental biological and cognitive capabilities, our capacity for complex tools, language, art, and social cooperation. The Mesolithic showcases human resilience and adaptability in the face of dramatic environmental change, refining foraging strategies and laying some groundwork for sedentism. The Neolithic Revolution, however, was a true watershed. The adoption of agriculture, while demanding and altering human health and society, created the essential preconditions for everything that followed. Permanent settlements, population growth, food surplus, technological acceleration, social stratification, organized religion, monumental architecture, and ultimately the rise of cities, states, writing, and civilization itself. The innovations and adaptations of these three Stone Age periods are the bedrock upon which the modern world was built. The shift from stone to metal, Bronze Age, Iron Age, was a continuation of technological evolution, but the fundamental transformation from nomadic forager to settled farmer occurred within the Neolithic, culminating the journey that began millions of years earlier with the first stone tool.